Did he have any, to your knowledge, any ties to Martin County or the Treasure Coast?
Yeah, to my knowledge, does he have any ties to Martin County? I think the answer, to my knowledge, the answer is no, I have no knowledge. I think what we're finding out is he's not from this area, which of course raises the bigger question is, how does a guy from not here get all the way to Trump International, realize that the president, former president of the United States, is golfing and is able to get a rifle in that vicinity? I think that's the question the FBI, the Secret Service are laser focused on today. Is this guy part of a conspiracy? Is he a lone gunman? If he's a lone gunman, President Trump is that much safer because we have him. But if he's part of a conspiracy, then this whole thing really takes on a very ominous tone.
That is, of course, the sheriff's office discussing Ryan Routh and the fact that he is from, as he said, from not here. So how did he get here? How did he have this information? There are a lot of questions that we have. And even this law enforcement official is like, you guys need to look into this because this seems pretty fishy. Well, the FBI is on the case. Trust us, bro. We're on the case, all right? Because they have placed Special Agent Jeffrey Veltri in charge of this entire investigation. He is the head of the FBI Miami field office. And he also, there's some interesting, pertinent details about him that I feel like you should know. I want to welcome to the show my friend Kyle Seraphin, of course, host of the Kyle Seraphin Show and recovering FBI agent, to tell us who this Jeffrey Veltri is. Kyle, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, I saw the cup.
I stole your mug.
I love it.
I had to put it up here. Yeah, Jeffrey Veltri, interesting character, right? So he's the special agent in charge of the Miami field office. I was talking to somebody out of Miami today and got the inside scoop that most of the people that work there tend to be pretty pro-Trump. And then I wrote back and I said, except your SAC, the special agent in charge. And he wrote the same thing at the same time because it's a well-known fact. Veltri is a Trump hater, was a Trump hater, and actually had to be counseled prior to taking that job to take down all of his social media posts that were inflammatory rhetoric against Donald Trump. Because we wouldn't want any untoward appearances of the guy taking over the field office that actually has the president's primary residence within its what we call AOR, the area of responsibility.
Right. Yeah. So, and he also, if I'm correct, so he was the deputy assistant director of the security division at the time that the so-called Trump questionnaire was used. According to whistleblowers, they were giving this testimony that we had, all of these questionnaires that they had to fill out. And I want to actually play some of this testimony in front of Congress and then have you get into this questionnaire a little bit more. Here is the whistleblower purging conservatives clip. Watch.
Mr. Allen, your security clearance was first suspended on January 10th, 2022. Is that correct? Yes or no will suffice. And the FBI's reason behind your suspension was because it found you to have, quote, espoused conspiratorial views both orally in writing and promoted unreliable information, which indicates support for the events of January 6th. Is that correct? Yes or no?
That is the language that they placed on the letter.
That's a yes, then.
So throw up one of these real quick. Throw up one of these Trump questionnaires here on the screen. Here is one of the questionnaires that apparently when this guy was, deputy assistant director of the security division, they were using this questionnaire. And if the agents responded in a way in which was pro-Trump, they were revoking their security clearances. Do I have that correct, Kyle?
Yeah, it's probably a little bit more complicated than that. That wasn't just like a one and done. There were also questions about COVID vaccines and a couple of other things on there. But it was one of the very politicized sort of generic outlines that they were using to go after people's security clearances. And I know at least two people who faced that questionnaire. So I've spoken to them in person. I've met them. We knew each other after the bureau. And so, yeah, this is something that happened, and it happened under Veltri's sort of directorship. He was the deputy assistant director, as you said. And there was another hatchet person that was working underneath there, a woman named Dina Perkins, who I actually knew at the academy. She was one of my instructors, and she was like relatively nice. She would go out and bake goods and bring stuff in, and she was kind of like a mom figure to people there who needed moms. I was 35, so I didn't need a mom, but some of them did because they were in their early 20s. And it's very strange to see these people pivot. They all kind of got that TDS, that Trump derangement syndrome, and then came after people. And I called it a purge right away when I went to people in Congress. I said, this is a purge of conservatives. And we didn't know how right we were, but we always assume because there's always paperwork. And that's what you end up finding out.
Right.
The very interesting thing is that this was done by a contractor, which was how Chris Wray kind of wiggled out of it in front of Congress. He said a contractor wrote this up, and we just became aware of it, and we were very upset. It's the same thing he said when we exposed that they were going after Catholics.
Right.
So this whole idea that the FBI director is not actually running the FBI, it is real. It's we always talk about deep state, but more accurately, it's an administrative state. The deputy director is the one who's running it, and he's woke, and we know this, and there's all kinds of evidence to prove that as well.
Yeah, and so now he's in charge of the investigation into this second would-be assassin. And I'm just wondering, Kyle, obviously this is like a totally subjective, but what you know about how bad the rot is within the FBI and this particular gentleman, Veltri, in charge, what is the likelihood that we get an investigation into this that is actually on the up and up?
So I found out that the agent who wrote the criminal complaint that actually has the subject, Routh, locked up is actually a decent guy, supposedly. Okay. He's got 20 years of experience. That means he's kind of old school FBI. He's at West Palm Beach, which is probably a nice place to hang out. And so a lot of these people take a retirement gig in their last sort of years with the Bureau. They move to the place where they want to be, where they can afford it, and they can retire there. So all things there are positive. But we're talking about the FBI, so they're not going to be transparent with us, which is probably the best thing that I've heard is that Ron DeSantis is actually going to open up his own investigation, and they're going to have FDLE, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, do a parallel. And that should have been done in Pennsylvania as well. At least they know it now. And I actually think it's a vote of no confidence against the federal government. So good for DeSantis and their people getting out of it right away and saying, expect us to be there. We can probably expect some press conferences. They're used to doing that sort of thing. The FBI is not.
Right. Yeah, no kidding. So again, this is just your opinion based on what you know. I can't. It's incomprehensible to me that there wasn't some sort of tie to the federal government when you look at what we just know already about this guy, the fact that he's tied into the Ukrainian government, the fact that he is, shooting propaganda for the Azov battalion, who is directly connected to the CIA. It just seems incomprehensible that this guy was, as they said with the last one, a lone gunman because trust us, bro.
Yeah, so some of the things that he did don't make a lot of sense if you had any experience or training. He put the gun barrel through the chain link fence, like a cyclone fence. It's not a good move if you want to keep your position there. Apparently sat there for 12 hours, so there's some dedication in that. Had some bags of tiles, which will stop bullets, but it's a weird thing to do. It's certainly not what professionals do. Had a GoPro and this kind of thing. Used an SKS and a 7.62 by 39 round that it shoots. Is not really a good sniper's tool. So kind of a mixed bag of capabilities. It's a lot of concerning questions, but doesn't sound like that's the A, the B, or even the C team. This is like the Kathy Griffin of like people that would go out there and try to do a shooting. But that doesn't mean that you're not seeing like systematic poking at the security apparatus that is in front of Trump. And the fact that somebody tried it again is really wild. I said at the time when Thomas Crooks was, sort of trotted out in front of us, I felt like that was kind of a dinner bell of crazy people, because nobody who's crazy wants to go out there and die on the field. They don't want to go out there and never make it to the objective. But Crooks got shots off and they hit Trump. And so that's a realistic sort of achievable or close to the goal. And you could see people going like, man, if he got close, I'm going to die doing it. But I'm going to give it a shot. And this guy didn't even die. What we found out, friends of mine that are inside the FBI in Miami said that the Secret Service engaged with a handgun. And so there was somebody that was doing the job they're supposed to do. They were expanding the protection bubble. They were out in front of the former president and noticed that barrel sticking through, and then took a very proactive means. And they should be, applauded because they started shooting. That's not common. Like most people see something and they call on the radio or they start investigating or whatever, but we're in such a high threat environment right now. They recognize the threat for what it was and probably saved some lives. So the guy runs off and so on. And it's like, he looked really calm when he was arrested, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
That bothers me.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. And I want to add to what you said there about the Secret Service agents who were like directly guarding Donald Trump. I think that obviously they handled it great, but you have to wonder how this guy got to even camp out there for 12 hours and how he was able to be just along the other side of that fence, which I'm not blaming on Donald Trump's direct detail, but I am saying, I mean, someone should have been responsible for checking that who failed. And here we see a long list of failures of just like, okay, well, is he dead? No, but that doesn't mean that people didn't do their jobs correctly.
Well, they actually addressed that in the press conference, I think it was yesterday, and it makes perfect sense. They said, well, if this was the sitting president, then we would have had people all around the golf course most likely. But because he's not, he got the smaller package. So they're explaining to us that even though this guy has already had an attempt on his life, that they still haven't bumped him up to whatever the next level is. So he has a lower tier of security. So, this is all manpower dependent. But is there a drone in the sky? I know the FBI has planes down in Miami. I've seen them. I've been to the hangar. Why aren't they up flying? If they're not doing anything else, they need to get airtime. So put them up for 4 hours at a time when he's doing golf. And they have thermal cameras and all kinds of capabilities. It's a manpower extender. It's not hard to do this stuff. The federal government has these resources. I'm sure Secret Service has similar stuff as well, but they're not being deployed. And so that tells us that maybe now, after 2 attempts, that they'll kind of step up their game, or maybe Donald Trump needs to be doing everything by virtual. Maybe he'll just be doing Skypes from here on out, because it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, it's like the guy already got shot in the head. How much more does he have to go through for you guys to take these threats seriously and give him the amount of protection that he needs? God, it's crazy times, and I appreciate you being here to just kind of dissect. You're like my logical friend, because you're an investigator and you like look for proof before you want to go jump from A to Z, and I just jump straight from A to Z. So I always appreciate you being a sounding board here. And so so you're not going to call me crazy on this one, right?
No, look, if this had happened to Obama one time, we'd still be hearing about it, and we'd be hearing about it for another year. And if somebody had taken a kayak up to the beach at Martha's Vineyard, we'd be hearing about how kayaks are the new tool of white supremacy. I'm fairly confident of that. We haven't heard anything. We heard this is the second assassination attempt in 65 days.
It's insane.
We're in all uncharted waters. This is where the monsters live on the old maps. And so I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't know what it means, but I fear for the next 50 days or so as we head into November. I just don't see anybody on the other side ready to relinquish power. And they're normalizing this. And I saw people blaming Donald Trump for someone trying to assassinate him. So we're living in the upside down. There's no question about it. So you're not crazy.
Okay, good.
I'm joining you.
Okay, good. Thank you, Kyle. Yes, I finally got him over here. All right, thank you. Kyle Seraphin, of course, host of the Kyle Seraphin Show, drinking from the most fantastic mug I think I've ever seen in my life. There it is.
It's pretty
Sara Gonzales
pretty good
Unfiltered.
looking.
Yeah, I love it. All right, Kyle, thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. See you, Sarah.
See ya. By the way, if you want that mug, you can go to shopblazemedia.com. Go get you a Sara Gonzales Unfiltered mug, or you can go to saramerch.com and you can get this I'm Voting for the Convicted Felon mug, t-shirt, what have you. You can save 10% with promo code Sarah10. Oh, and we've got a new one coming. I think you're really going to love it. No spoilers. No spoilers, but we've got a new one coming to the collection. I was just talking to our merch guy earlier today, and it should be up soon. Saramerch.com.